It's Jonah Flint, and this is my AE1601 glider report. For this project, we had to create a balsa wood glider with the given materials that fit in a 16-inch by 16-inch area, which is the outside border, as you can see here in duct tape. And we had a lot of latitude when designing our glider, so long as it was a balsa wood glider and used gliding motion. For my design, I decided to maximize stability and lift. To do this, I had a high aspect ratio on my wings, so they were long to the tips and they were relatively thin. I used an aspect ratio of 10.42, and my fuselage length was about 75% of my wingspan. Ended up being about 13 inches long, and my wingspan was about 14.4 inches, with a root chord of 2 inches. And along with that, I had a 10-degree sweep angle on the aft end of the wing here. This, in my research, I found was good for stability, and my initial design did not include any dihedral angle, but after my testing, I found that I had a bit of a roll in stability, so I added this 5-degree dihedral angle as well. In my second iteration, I also included these wing mounts, which increase the structural stability of my design overall. They do increase drag and weight as it increases the cross-sectional area. And it doesn't move my center of gravity much because it is fairly close to my CG. Primarily, I added these because it made manufacturing the parts a lot easier, and it increased my accuracy when building it. It also made it easier to modify as well. For the nose cone, this part is also 3D printed along with the wing mounts here. This part was meant to be weighted. I found the optimal weight later on during my testing, but there's basically a cavity in there where I could put weights. And it's using hack geometry, although this likely does not affect the glider in a significant way versus just a typical cone. I did this just because I thought it'd be fun, but the 3D printing resolution is likely too poor to see any benefit from the hack geometry anyways. Plus, we're going at such a low speed. I expected the weight in the nose cone to be the biggest impact out of my modifications, just shifting my center of gravity forward, increasing stability. I also expected the dihedral angle I added later to really impact my roll stability, as well as I increased the size of my vertical stabilizer to combat that same instability. I also added a bit of a concavity here on the aft end of the fuselage. This was primarily to reduce weight and again move my center of gravity forward, increasing stability. This was just done by sanding that cavity out. I also expected this to have a fairly significant impact on the stability of the glider, as well as how far it went, given that it was reducing weight. Now on to my testing. So I created this plywood scrap glider out of material from the Invention Studio. It's the same stabilizer geometry, albeit a little bit smaller on the vertical stabilizer. As I mentioned, I ended up increasing this size. And there's no dihedral angle. These wings are just glued directly to the fuselage. And the screw sticking out the front, which as you can see here took some damage through my testing, was meant to have weights put on the tip so I could move my center of gravity forward during testing and find the optimal setup. After testing, I realized that I wanted my center of gravity to be about an inch forward from my quarter chord here, and I knew I wanted to add that dihedral angle as well as this is where I realized I wanted to add a wing mount, because it was fairly difficult for me to accurately place the wings on the side here or glue them on without adding or inducing some angle, and I think that's primarily where my roll instability came from. It was just error in the mounting here. And I also knew that I definitely wanted to use the balsa wood after this, because this plywood setup was fairly heavy. For my results, I'm fairly happy with my results. My glider in this flight flew about 50 feet, which was very good, and my best flight was 87 feet. All my flights were super stable, which was good. That was my primary concern when designing this. And my glider met all the design requirements, which I was super happy about. And yeah. For calculating my lift and drag coefficients, so I took that video there and calculated my launch angle, which was about 8.169 degrees, plus the 5-degree angle of attack, which I added on the wing mount. So it's actually about 13 degrees angle of attack on the launch. I didn't end up using this to calculate my coefficient of lift or drag, just because it wasn't as accurate as using the equations here. To use the equations, I stole them here from the worksheet. My lift equation, or for my coefficient of lift, I should say, I got about a 0.0061, and my total coefficient of drag, which I got by adding the induced drag and the zero lift drag, I got that to be about 2.53 e to the negative 6, so much smaller than the coefficient of lift, which is good. And I found my velocity average just by using the video. I know how far it went and in what time. Then I weighed my glider to get the weight. The planform area and my wingspan, my aspect ratio were all gathered from my CAD model. And rho infinity here is the pressure at sea level, which I got off the internet, and I used an E of 0.9 in my equations. To review, overall very happy with my glider. It performed well, it met all the requirements. I had a lot of fun iterating with it and 3D printing the parts. It was a good time. If I were to do it again, I would certainly increase the toughness of my glider. As you can see here, it took quite a bit of damage during the tournament and during testing. I ended up having to fix it with blue masking tape halfway through the tournament, which was not ideal. And I noticed that a lot of the more successful gliders were just built very rigidly, which allowed the student to really huck it and impart a lot of force on launch. Being as there's no thrust from these gliders, all the force has to come from the initial launch. So being able to throw it harder really impacts your final distance. So I think if I threw this glider any harder than I did, it would have come apart on launch. So I think if I were to do it again, I would definitely increase rigidity and toughness. But again, I'm very happy with the glider. It performed very well and met all my expectations. And here are a couple of my sources that I used during my research. Thank you very much.